is May Hafizi. I welcome you to our HW VITS for June 11th. Quite a few of you emailed me and said you will be joining us through the WebEx connection from your desktops. This is going to make roll call a little bit difficult for me. I would appreciate it if you would email me, let me know that you were in attendance so that I can check off your center. Also, I need to let everybody know that we are recording this session, and we have a couple of speakers scheduled for today, so in the interest of time, I'm just going to ask them to give me about 5 minutes to go down my list to make sure that you have the information that I need to pass on to you. First of all, I'd like to introduce an intern who's going to be working with Kathy and the OCHMO team in DC. Corinna Dillon is studying nutrition and physical fitness. She's discussing a project with Kathy that's going to put her in contact with all of you. More details will be provided once she has her project completely spelled out. So we welcome you, Corinna. If you recall, a couple of months ago, we surveyed a question and asked you if you were in favor of or opposed to printed health information in bulk. And the responses that we received were 50-50 pretty much. Sometimes we had two contradictory responses from the same center. So you can only imagine how this placed us at a crossroad. Those who were interested in print material were looking for disease-specific only, and others felt that folks should simply go to online to retrieve the information that they need when they need it. I have shared this summary with OCHMO, and they're reviewing it and considering the next steps. Meanwhile, what I have also done is to contact Mayo Clinic, because currently they have 3 print options available under the Health Information tab from A to Z. Under that tab, you can research health topics, you can research drugs and supplements. So it's a very complete library of information that's accessible to anybody who has logged into Mayo Clinic in Body Health. So my question to them was, you have this resource available to us. The print options are either print the page or print the entire information, which is sometimes quite lengthy, about 7 or 8 pages, or print in larger font. So my question to them was, can we have a print option that would allow us to print a 1-page summary of that topic that we're interested in, or the employee is interested in, or if the employee is visiting the clinic and you want to give them a printed material, you can just print that 1 page, then give them the URL for Mayo Clinic and the unique ID, and ask them to please register to find further information about the topic that they're interested in. Since this print option is currently not available, the Mayo Clinic team has forwarded our request to their development team. And if they can make that available, this will in a way help us meet both requirements. You're not printing in bulk, and also what you're doing is that if you are printing, it's a 1-page summary and it's coming from a reliable source. And you're also doing a little bit of outreach for the Mayo Clinic in Body Health. So hopefully we're going to get some good news from Mayo Clinic. Last but not least, our annual occupational health meeting is scheduled for July 13th in Cleveland at the NASA Safety Center. Please go to our website for registration information. And now I'm going to very briefly introduce our 2 speakers, Kirsten Wood and Dr. Larry Weir. Kirsten is with Mayo Clinic. She's been our account manager since we started working with Mayo Clinic. She's going to present to us the Walk to Wellness module, since our campaign is going to start on September 1st. This year, we're going to be able to provide every center with center-specific outcome data if you have 50 or more participants. This was a request based on our experience with the 2008 campaign, because last year we only received aggregate data, so centers couldn't see their center-specific participation. But this year we have made accommodations, we have worked with Mayo Clinic so we can provide you center-specific data, and if you like, we can even initiate an interagency competition just to get a little bit more interest going in the Walk to Wellness campaign. Our second speaker is Dr. Weir. He's from JSC, and he's going to be discussing the effects of smoking on aerobic power. This is a very timely presentation by Dr. Weir because the Congress is currently discussing legislation to give the FDA authority to regulate cigarettes and to raise cigarette taxes. Also, multiple states are having continued discussion on tobacco tax increases, mainly for two reasons. One, to raise state revenues, and also to achieve health public policy goals, such as discouraging folks from smoking. And on an interesting note, as of April 1st of this year, the average retail price of a pack of cigarettes is $4.82 as compared to $4.10 on January 1st, 2009. So having said that, I'd like to give the floor to Kirsten to talk about Walk to Wellness, and then Dr. Weir to talk about his research on the effect of smoking on aerobic power. Thank you.
Thank you, May, and good morning. This is Kirsten Wood with Mayo Clinic, and today I'd like to just give you a general overview of the Mayo Clinic Walk to Wellness program. And I can share this presentation with May after this, and she can forward to you if you'd like as well. So what is Walk to Wellness? Walk to Wellness is a ready-to-use interactive walking campaign that can be rolled out to a wide population so that you can get everybody in your group walking at the same time, and then using that time period to capture information on their walking experience, the outcomes, their readiness to change, and their confidence. This is not a program where you're going to put on a pedometer and when you get up in the morning and walk 10,000 steps. What we're doing is we are encouraging individuals to take dedicated time out of their day to actually get physical activity. So it's not your basic, I'm walking to lunch or I'm walking to the car. It is actually carving out time each day to focus on physical activity. With that, the Walk to Wellness does offer 3 different levels, and it will be up to May and her team to determine which level they'd like to offer. We can offer a 28-day campaign, a 42, or a 56. Within each of these campaign options, there are 2 levels that the individual walker can select. If there's someone who isn't getting a lot of activity currently, they can might want to start slow and elect to get into our Getting Started option, which with the 28-day means they have to, over that 28-day period, dedicate 200 minutes to physical activity or 20,000 steps if they have a pedometer. And then we have a ready-to-go option, which individuals can use to, if they're more active and want to get 400 minutes to 40,000 steps. These are the minimum goals, so they can exceed the goal during this campaign, but at a minimum they need to reach this level to complete the program. Highlights on the program. We're targeting that inactive population, so generally somebody who is that marathon runner or is active already and gets a lot of exercise. This may not be the perfect program for them, but they still can use it to track their running or their walking. It's nice in that we can track minutes or steps, so you do not need a pedometer to do this. If you have one, that's great, but if not, you can track minutes. So it's flexible and easy to implement. We also have the option to track individual or group participation, and I'm going to talk about the experience of both of these later in this presentation. The program offers walking resources, and I'll touch on that. We have tracking and journaling tools so that they can track their walking every day or on a weekly basis. They can opt in to weekly motivational emails if they'd like to receive that to keep them going and provide them information on walking. And it's incentive ready, so if you do want to offer an incentive, we can easily provide reports on enrollment and completion of the program, or both, if that's of interest to you as well. For reporting, initially as individuals are enrolling in the program, May and her team are able to track on an aggregate basis the enrollment data in our report suite, so how many people are enrolled in the program. We also provide an outcome report that May mentioned, It can be at the center level. It needs to be at least 150 participants in the program in order to get down to that level. And what we track in the outcome information is we track by center or in an aggregate across the total population, the total steps or total minutes, the number of people who have met goals, so you have those who enrolled and those who actually finished the program and met the goal. And we also capture increased exercise information, self-efficacy, and we also capture satisfaction results and share back any comments that we get as well. With this program, it comes with some communication tools because it's important that this is communicated to your population. So we will provide to May and her team some pre-written content in our promotion service site on getting people excited, during that pre-enrollment period, providing them information during the enrollment period, and then information that they can also populate onto the homepage of the website to promote the program as well. We also have some posters, some e-posters that can be sent electronically, postcards and table tents, and a nice promotion plan to use on our best practices from the other groups that we've launched. When's the best time to promote and in what format? There's a nice logo, too, for Walk to Wellness, so that's easily posted on the NASA site as well for individuals to recognize the program. As well as launching the program, we have the ability to do customizations on the web portal to make sure that that program is prominent and individuals can find it easily when they go to the NASA Healthier You site. In the client information module, which is right here, we can put a link and have some text providing information about the program. We can pop up a promotional module, which is right on below the client information module, which is just a little space that gives advertisement on the program. And within the company spotlight, we also have a promotional picture that will display on the homepage during the campaign to make sure individuals know where to find the program and where to go to get started when they're participating. Within the program, it also provides the ability for NASA to customize it and make it their own. So with the program, where it shows number 1, if NASA has a name for the program that they'd like to rebrand it with, we can put the NASA name of the program in this space. We can also, we have a tab that we can pop up that will allow us to promote any special events that NASA may be offering. So if there's any special walks or other things that are going on, those can be promoted on the site. And if you are offering an incentive, we've got another space where incentive information can be populated as well. So let's walk through the Walk to Wellness experience. First of all, it's easy to enroll. When an individual is ready to enroll during that enrollment period, they can either come to the homepage, which will have the Walk to Wellness picture prominently displayed on the front. They can just hit the Start button and get right into that program for enrollment, or they can click on the promotional module too, which takes them to that same spot. Now, the enrollment period is important. This is the specific period of time prior to when that 28, 42, or 56-day campaign begins, where individuals need to go out and indicate their intent to participate. If you don't enroll in the program during this period, the program will not be available to you after the enrollment period ends. During the enrollment period, the individual needs to make a couple of decisions to customize their walking experience and for us to identify that population that we're going to follow through on the program. So they need to indicate their goal. Are they going to be ready to go or getting started? Do they want to walk alone, or are they going to walk as part of a team? And I'll talk about that. Do they want to track minutes or steps? And do they want to receive those motivational emails in their email box? Once again, once that campaign period begins, individuals can change their enrollment information during that enrollment period. But once we close it and start the program, selections cannot be changed or individuals cannot join after that point. So it's very important to promote it. So how does it work? Once the Walk to Wellness program starts, individuals will start tracking their walking progress with our interactive walking log. So they'll come in here and select their date, the number of minutes or steps that they walked during that time period. They can journal any additional information that they'd like, and then they submit it. They're also going to have the ability to view or edit their past entries. So if they do make a mistake and enter the wrong information, they can come back and edit it. They can print it, and then they can also view a sample walking schedule. Another nice feature is as I'm walking in this program, we have this little walker on the bottom, and as you're adding your information, he or she starts walking across the program to the goal of the red flag. So they can kind of see their progress as they go through the program.
May 1427, Linda May 1427.
Oh, is it? Oh, okay.
We can also, we'll be showing you that individual information about their walking summary. They're going to their stats. They're going to see the start and end date of the campaign. The total goal that they selected will be populated here. And then as they enter their information, their minutes log, their average minutes per day, and their minutes to goal will change, as well as giving them the information on how many days they have left to enter their information. If they are walking as part of a team, they're going to have both their individual stats and the combined aggregate information for their team in a second tab. We have walking resources. So within the program, as individuals interact with it, they're going to have access to the walking school, which basically provides you information on everything about walking, whether it's how to pick the best shoe, how to work and purchase a pedometer, that type of thing. So lots of information and resources within the walking school.
The lady from the Mayo Clinic.
We also have some information on, do you want to start or join a walking group? So we've got some options. Number one, you can walk on your own as an individual. 2, you can start a walking group and be the team lead. Or 3, you can join another group and be a member of that team. If you're going to lead a walking group, you're going to indicate your intent to lead that group during the enrollment period. And when you do indicate, there's a little area that you're going to click on that says, I want to be a team leader. It's going to give you additional information. You're going to submit, at that point, a name for your group and a password. You're going to also get some additional information sent to you in your email box, an email that you can send out to invite others to join your team. And then you're going to get hints on how to organize walking activities for your group. Do you want to walk during your lunch hour, in the morning, on the weekends with your team? And then you're going to receive other helpful tips on how to be a successful group leader. If you're going to participate in a walking group, you're going to get an email from a team lead inviting you to join. And when you go to enroll, you're going to indicate your intent to join the team. And when you indicate that intent, it's going to ask you for that name and the password of the team that you've been invited to join. And then what happens then is as you walk on the program, you're going to also see your individual stats and the stats of your team to see how your team is doing as a whole. You will not, however, get any information, any individual information on any other team members in your group. You'll just get it at an aggregate basis. Walking groups are for providing motivation and support. They're not competitive, so you're not going to be able to see how team A, B, and C does compared to your team or how any other individual does on this program. If you are interested in something like that, that would need to be organized outside of this program. Completing Walk to Wellness. So the Walk to Wellness campaign is completed when the individual user has, first, they've reached their selected walking goal. Is it getting started or ready to go? And they're doing it in miniature steps. And then once they reach that goal, they get an end-of-program survey. And then once they complete that, they're completed. They can still use the program. So if I complete the program and reach my goal on day 15 of 28, I can still enter my minutes and steps and go way beyond that and see how far I can take it. But it's important that they complete that end-of-campaign survey because that's where we're going to get those outcomes that NASA is going to want to look at. The program also is easy to incentivize. So in addition to providing, if you'd like to provide an incentive at a center level, we can also pop up some incentives in the form of booklets. So Mayo Clinic can provide you the option at no cost to allow an individual to download an electronic booklet. And these are booklets anywhere between 32 and 48 pages. We have 8 of them that we offer, so as an individual completes, this page could pop up, and if they're interested in downloading one of these booklets, they select one and download it to their desktop. And we've got a wide variety of booklets on walking, on healthy eating, healthy weights. There's a cookbook and an eating out guide. When an individual has completed the program and completed the outcome survey, this is the screen that's going to pop up telling them that congratulations, you've met your goal, great job. And it's also going to give them some information about, you can still continue to enter your time and your minutes, your steps, and continue walking if the program hasn't completed. Now, what we have found is we have a series, we've put together some of the best practices on ways to create effectiveness with the walking program. Number one is secure management support. If you're going to do this and you've got like employee meetings in different departments, it's always nice for whoever's leading those meetings or giving the information out to the group that this program is going on so that they see that management supports it. And also, it's another way to make sure individuals are aware the program is going on. We've also seen groups use a technique by recruiting an internal celebrity, a champion, or an influencer, such as one group I worked with recruited their medical director to kick off the enrollment meetings as well as lead a weekly walk with different teams. So on Wednesdays over the lunch hour, he would do a walk, and anybody who wanted to go with him was invited to join him. It's also a good idea to coordinate an enrollment event to get excitement created around enrolling in the program, whether it's putting some information around a kiosk where individuals can sign up, or offering a sign-up event where individuals can show up and get a small, maybe a bottle of water, an apple, or something like that. Utilize and encourage walking groups whenever possible, because we do find that if you have that motivation and support of a team, you're more likely to stay committed and to even continue the walking after the program has ended. Promote a walking-friendly environment. If you've got in your area any walking trails or how many times can you walk around the building to equal a mile? Pulling together some maps, some areas to walk, and some ideas of where to walk is really nice to get people going and walking. It's also a program that's nice for the family, so individuals can go home and walk with their family. And in the walking resources, there are some resources for children. So if you walk with your family, there is a little calendar that kids can color the tennis shoe in each day that they walk during the program. You can plan and highlight on-site events, whether they're walking events. Some groups have planned like a Saturday where they've gathered a large group together and done a formal company walk. If you have that ability to use incentives, regardless, big or really small incentives, they all work. Individuals like to get things, so even if it's a bottle of water or some type of little trinket, those are always helpful. Make sure you communicate it and promote it. We provide you the tools and the resources. Get the word out and get it out frequently. And finally, make it fun for everyone. This is easy to implement. It's easy to make it fun, and it's something that everyone can participate in. When I provide you this presentation, there's also a very short online video that you can watch on the program. You just need to cut and paste this URL in your web browser, and I'll send that out to May after this meeting. So with that, I'm just going to open it up for questions.
I have a question, Kirsten. We need to have 150 participants at each center in order to receive center-specific information.
Exactly. That's correct.
150. And you mentioned customization. Because this web portal is agency-wide, we have to customize for the agency, not for the center. Because you mentioned if you have a name for the campaign, you can put it in section number 1. But whatever we name this campaign, it's going to have to be agency-wide because we can't customize per center.
Exactly. That's correct.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
May, this is Renee from the Glenn Research Center, and I just want to make sure I have this correct. So September 1st, our campaign starts. So our pre-enrollment will be 2 weeks prior to that. And will we go with the 28 days?
When I surveyed the team initially, we were going to start in October, but folks who were in the north suggested September before it gets cold. So the group decided that we're going to start September 1st, and yes, you're correct. Enrollment is 2 weeks prior to September 1st. And the question of 28 or 40, there were several options. There were 3 options available. And let me understand that, Kirsten, because I can't answer her third question. Can the individuals choose which campaign they're going to go with, or we need to choose one of the 3?
You as an agency select one of the 3. The individual can select their goal of getting ready or getting started within that selection. So you select the 28, 42, or 56, and everybody sees that same campaign.
I guess we need to make a decision as a group which one we're going to go with, 28, 42, or 56. And you guys can let me know when you send me a note about your attendance, because I know majority of you are using your desktop to utilize the WebEx option. So when you let me know of your attendance, please let me know which one of these options we want to go with, and I will let the team know what the consensus is. Thank you, Kristen. If there's no other questions about Walk to Wellness, I'm going to ask Dr. Weir to please start his presentation. Thank you.
May, does Dr. Weir need to have the WebEx passed to him?
Yes, he does. He needs the WebEx for the remainder of the hour.
And which participant? Is he the JSC participant?
Yes, he is.
Hey, Dr. Weir, I think I'm passing it to you, so if you should have it if you want to take it on your desktop.
Okay, I've got my VITS expert getting me set up now. He's going to pass me the baton, put it on from the beginning. Okay, that's good. Slide it over. I'm assuming everyone can hear me now. I'm Larry Weir. I'm at the Johnson Space Center. I run the health-related fitness program, work with our wellness participants here. This presentation's purpose is to explain what aerobic power is and why it's important and how smoking affects aerobic power. We drew the conclusions from a little research project that we completed about a year ago. And let me see if I can not mess this up. There you go. For some background, my personal experience many years ago, when I was about 10 years old, I played on the elementary school football team. I lived in a very small town, and my high school coach caught me and a couple other boys smoking under a street light. Of course, it's a small town. Everybody knows what they're doing. And he dragged me into his office the next day and told me and the rest of the boys he was going to kick us off the team. He found out we were smoking. He said smoking would cut our wind, and it scared us to death, and so we decided we'd never smoke again. But I went home and crawled under my father's bed. He had a stack of magazines called True Men or something like this. They weren't girly magazines. They were men's magazines, all about war stories and fishing and adventure. And at the back of every magazine, we'd find advertisements that were endorsed by athletes, including Pee Wee Reese, who you can see in the left top of your screen there, who was a great Brooklyn Dodgers shortstop in the mid-'50s when I was a kid. And I took the magazine back to my coach, and I said, look, if it doesn't hurt Pee Wee, how could it hurt me? And he said, well, these athletes really don't smoke. They're just they're just making these advertisements for the money. And I believed him, and I didn't smoke again for many, many years. But then the truth is many athletes have smoked. Many of them have been very successful. You may recognize some faces there. There's Keith Hernandez of the New York Mets. The guy in the middle, you may not know, that's Zinedine Zidane, who's probably one of the best soccer players presently in Germany or in Europe. There's Graham Watson, who just retired from international biking. There's Dandy Don Meredith. There's Michael Jordan. And there's lots more athletes who smoke, who smoked then and smoke now. And so the question is, how could they smoke and be successful athletes? I went in the Army in 1967. That's 4 years after college. I started smoking in college because a girl I met in college said she thought smokers were sexy. And of course, I was a college kid and wanted to be sexy, just like James Bond and all those other sexy guys. So I smoked along with most of my military counterparts. Lots of us in the Army smoked. I was required to, if I wanted to get 100 points on the PT test to go to Ranger and parachute training, I needed to run the mile in 6 minutes, which I could do, which is pretty fast. And a few years later, I could do the 2 mile when the Army instituted a 2 mile run. I could do that in 10 minutes. It's a 5-minute mile, which is pretty darn good. And I was a smoker. And I represented my battalion in lots of races, won some races, and 5-minute miles sometimes will win and sometimes it won't. I wondered, how much is smoking hurting me? I didn't really think if I didn't smoke, I could have run any faster than a 5-minute mile. I took this picture that you see here when I was a platoon leader in Vietnam. We were operating just below the demilitarized zone and stuck this cigarette in the bony jaws of the skull. And when I got the picture back, I copied the Surgeon General's warning, which is written on the side of every pack of cigarettes that we were furnished for free in our C rations. And you can barely read it, but it says, "Caution, cigarette smoking may be hazardous to your health." Northwest of Qua Viet, I Corps, Republic of Vietnam, June '69. Us soldiers could see the hypocrisy in that Uncle Sam was giving us cigarettes, encouraging us to smoke, and telling us that it might kill us. But we thought that was kind of cool, too, and we wanted to be cool, and that was the most important thing to a young man. So what does the research say about the effect of smoking on fitness? Most of it says it's bad. That is, your aerobic power, that's VO2 max, and your exercise endurance are going to drop if you smoke, mainly due to the immediate effect of carbon monoxide, which essentially suffocates your organs and your muscles. It can't receive oxygen. And also due to the combined effect of nicotine and other chemicals and that affects many variables that are related to VO2 max, such as pulmonary function, anaerobic threshold, cardiac output, oxygen availability, and so forth, all of which are going to cause your aerobic power to fall. However, some very interesting studies show that when you measure the exercise performance and the VO2 max of young soldiers, say basic trainees, and young athletes, and young airmen from Canada, and young soldiers in Israel, a number of studies have shown no difference in the VO2 max or the 2-mile run time for smokers and for non-smokers. Or they show some difference, but only for the older soldiers and older athletes, those that are over 30. Or there may be a drop in VO2 max, but when you regulate for exercise, that if you find somebody who smokes even heavily, a very heavy smoker, but who's also vigorously active, there's no decrease in aerobic power. So, once again, there's some conflict and contradiction even in the research, and the question is, how bad is smoking for my fitness? Well, before I go too much further, I want to make sure you understand what aerobic power is. Basically, it's the rate at which you can process oxygen. It's measured by a term called VO2 max. V means volume, O2 is oxygen, and it's expressed as a maximum volume in milliliters of oxygen that you can process per kilogram body weight in the last minute of an all-out effort test, which is often performed on a treadmill but can be done elsewhere. So it's dependent on a healthy cardiorespiratory system because you're going to suck the oxygen in from the air. It's going to go down the trachea into your lungs, and from the lungs it's going to go across into the blood, into the heart, force from the heart down into this athlete's legs, and then recirculate. And the higher this person's aerobic power, the faster this young man can run. It's the best single index of your physical work capacity. If you want to know how well a person can work, the best way to know is to measure his VO2 max. And it's the lead component in health-related fitness. There are other components, but those components often cited in the literature and in popular press, such as agility and stability and balance and coordination, have nothing whatever to do with health, or very little to do with health. When we talk about health and the relationship between exercise and health, we're talking about the role of aerobic power in health. So why is aerobic power important for health? This is an illustration from a famous study done by Steve Blair of the Longitudinal Aerobic Center the Center for Longitudinal Aerobic Study in Dallas, often called the Cooper Clinic. This old study published in 1989 in Journal of the American Medical Association showed that when he sorted the fitness level of tens of thousands of men and women who'd gone through the Cooper Clinic by tertiles of fitness, he found that the lowest fit group had the highest death rate from all causes, mostly heart attack, but any cause. That includes car wrecks and cancer and you name it. But he also saw roughly a 55 to 60% drop in the death rate for the people who were moderately fit. And he also obtained what we call an asymptote. That is, there was a dramatic reduction in the risk for premature death from all causes if you become moderately fit. But becoming highly fit didn't get you a whole lot more protection. You got a little more. You were better off with being highly fit than compared to moderately fit. Now the question is, what do they mean here by fitness? Are they talking about a person's ability to lift weights or to work out on a stability ball? No, they're talking about aerobic power. And the asymptote there for men and women is a metabolic max, what we call around 9 or 10 METs. Here's another. Remember the first paper I showed you with an illustration from all-cause mortality. This is from a paper on heart disease, cardiovascular disease, published just a few years ago in Circulation. And they sorted the relative risk of death by MET max. Now, what that means is your maximum capacity to metabolize. While you're sitting there listening to me, you're at rest, and you're metabolizing oxygen, or you're using oxygen at the rate of 3.5 milliliters of oxygen per kilogram body weight per minute. That's what you need to stay alive, just to sit still. As you begin to exercise more, then that metabolic rate is going to increase. For example, if you got up and started to run a 10-minute mile, you're going to be, actually, as it turns out, you're going to be metabolizing 10 times faster. You'll be at MET max or be working at 10 METs, which is 10 times 3.5, or you'd be using 35 milliliters of oxygen per kilogram body weight rather than just 3.5. What they found was that the least fit group, that is, that had a MET max of 6 or less, had 4.5 times greater risk of premature death from cardiovascular disease as compared to the most fit group, who had a MET max of 13. A MET max of 13 says you can do a mile in about 7 2/3 minutes, which is fairly fast. The asymptote is around an 8 MET, meaning that if you get 8 METs or more, you have better than or less than half the risk of premature death from heart disease. And the reason I mention 8 METs, why that's important, is because to exercise at 8 MET max, you got to be able to at least jog. That's equivalent to running a mile in about 12.5 minutes. I'm not saying I'm telling you all to go out and jog and not walk. I'm saying you have to have at least the aerobic power, the capacity to at least do a mile in 12.5 minutes. And the reason I think that's so interesting is there's a new paper that just came out just the last couple of months in Medicine, Science, and Sports and Exercise. It was also sponsored by the Cooper Clinic. The lead author is Peel. Dr. Blair was one of the co-authors on this paper. Janine Harden mentioned this in one of her mail-outs a few weeks ago about this paper on the role of aerobic power or fitness and breast cancer in women. And they found that the asymptote, the protective level to prevent breast cancer or avoid breast cancer or prevent dying from breast cancer is a MET max of 8. Again, 8 METs, which is the ability to at least jog. So compared to a woman who doesn't have that ability, a woman who can at least jog has 1/2 the risk of dying prematurely or dying at all from breast cancer. And you notice you don't get a whole lot better protection if you can do 10 METs. It's roughly around what we call a moderate level of fitness. And I've got to say this, the only way you can improve your aerobic power is not by sitting on a stability ball, for Pete's sake. You've got to exercise aerobically, and that aerobic exercise must at least occasionally be vigorous. And I'm not putting down stability balls and elastic bands. Those have their place. But the foundation of any exercise program has got to be an aerobic exercise program if you want to get health benefits.
Video recording.
So, what determines aerobic power? There are some things beyond your control, such as your heredity. Some people are going to just inherit a higher aerobic power than others. We also find that men have roughly 20 to 25% higher VO2 max than women in general. Certainly, there are a lot of women with much higher VO2 max than I have, but I say in general, for the same age group, same level of training, a man has around 20-25% higher VO2 max. Age is also a factor, but it isn't as big a factor as we like to claim. We see it falls with aging. However, it doesn't fall very fast if we retain our activity and we don't get too fat. The two most important controllable factors
And Donna asked if we.
are
I thought we could
Excuse me,
hear it
someone
on
has
Zoom.
your mic
your
open.
level of training and your fatness. Training and fatness. In other words, people who are very active and maintain their leanness don't have much decline in aerobic power as they age. And those are the two that we can control, that we can do something about. How active we are and how fat we are. There are many ways to measure VO2 max. The gold standard is to put somebody on a treadmill, shove a hose in his mouth, pinch his nose, and run him till he drops. It's called indirect calorimetry or open circuit spirometry. It's done in laboratories. We've done it many times here at the Johnson Space Center. We can also estimate it by putting them on a treadmill, running them till they drop. That's a maximal test. That's what they do at the Cooper Clinic. Or they do a 1.5 to 2 mile run as fast as they can go. Now, maximal tests are very accurate, highly correlated with the gold standard. However, they do put the patient at risk. They're very uncomfortable. Lots of folks just don't like to do it. So we developed some submaximal tests done on treadmills, bicycles, or stationary bikes, bench steps, and so forth. You have reduced accuracy, but it's a whole lot more comfortable and safer. We've also developed right here at JSC a number of non-exercise models that are just as accurate as these submaximal models. And all you have to do is ask the person a question and take a few measurements such as their waist size. This is a table from a paper that we presented on to you guys a few years ago that was published in 2006 in Medicine, Science, and Sports that shows the high value of age, gender, activity habit, and body composition and aerobic power. When you put all three of those together, you can predict VO2 max quite accurately with a multiple correlation of about 0.81. And it's down there at the bottom, the standard error estimate, SEE percent, means that your estimates are all going to be around 13% of the actual. So you don't always hit the bullseye, but you're going to be within 13% of the bullseye with this method. Now, with that paper, we did not include smoking. And when this paper was published, a couple of scientists from Kansas City contacted me and asked me if we could include smoking to see whether or not our models predicted VO2 max for smokers, because they suspected that if you have a heavy smoker in here, this may actually overestimate his VO2 max due to the effect of smoking on aerobic power. So we decided to do a study. We drew on the same data that we'd used for our non-exercise models. All of them had been maximally stress tested and so forth. And we added information on their smoking with a term called pack years. Let me see. Yeah. Now, pack years is something that's commonly used in research to estimate habitual smoking. Everyone got a maximal treadmill stress test. That's a picture of what the guy looks like when he's first hooked up. By the way, when he's finished, he doesn't look so pleasant. He's gone to max. He looks like he's about to throw up. And so that's kind of what a guy looks like when he goes through a max test. But you see the hose in his mouth and his nose pinched off. So they actually measure his expired air or the amount of oxygen that he processes. They all gave us their activity rating on a 0 to 10 scale. This is a scale that we developed at JSC many years ago. We've used it for many papers. It's highly correlated with VO2 max and a number of exercise components. A 0 says you don't exercise at all, and a 10 says you're very active, such as running over 25 miles a week, or you do over 12 hours a week of basketball or something like that. Most employees are somewhere in the middle. We measured them for height and weight in our clinic and got their body mass index. And then we asked about their smoking status and developed that into the pack year. A pack year is a number of packs per day times the number of years smoking at that level. For example, if you smoke 1 pack a day for 20 years, that's 20 pack years. Or if you smoke 4 packs a day for 5 years, that's quite a bit. That's also 20 pack years. That's where we come up with that. And then we sorted them by increasing levels of smoking habit. Never means 0 means you never smoke, never have smoked. Light is 1 to 10 pack years, moderate 11 to 20 pack years, and heavy is over 20 pack years. when we put all the men and women together, we have around 2,400 men and almost 400 women in the sample, and sort them according to pack years, never light, moderate, and heavy, you'll see the VO2 max falls. And the RER's respiratory exchange ratio is just a way to give you confidence that these tests were maximal. Respiratory exchange ratio has to be at least a 1.1 or more. The person didn't really go to max on the test. So these are all maximal tests. People tend to be older in the heavier smoking group. Makes sense. Older people tend to smoke. A person with with a longer term habit tends to smoke more than a younger person. And the body mass index went up, and the activity ratings went down with increased smoking. Now it gets a little confusing here because when you can include the men and women data all together, things get a little confused. For example, we didn't have very many women in our total sample, only about 12 of them who are heavy smokers. And so what I did was I separated the men here just to clarify the presentation. If you ever had to give a smoking cessation class, the first thing that people will tell you is they don't want to quit smoking because they will get fat. Have you heard that? People think that non-smokers are fatter than smokers, and the heavier you smoke, the leaner you are. These data refute that. If you take a look at all measures of body fat, body mass index, percent fat, and waist girth, the heavy smoking column, that's a purple column, is taller than all the rest. So in other words, the heavier you smoke, the bigger your waist, the higher your percent fat, the fatter you are, not the leaner you are. That refutes one of our myths about the role of smoking in body fat. We also found that the heavier smokers were the least active. The activity ratings fell. Interestingly, of course, the age went up by smoking groups, so age was a factor. Now remember, age is a factor, activity is a factor, and body composition is always a factor in smoking, and in VO2 max too. So this slide shows a dramatic drop in aerobic power. From the never smoke to the heavy smoke group, there's a steady decrease, and that decrease for each group is significant. So that the drop from never to heavy is around a 25 to 30% drop in aerobic power, heavy group compared to the never smoke group. So you would conclude, yes, smoking affects aerobic power, and it does so in a stepwise way. The more you smoke, the greater the drop. But keep in mind that also the heavy smokers are fatter, older, less active. So if you look at the left graph, you'll see that stepwise fall. From never to light to moderate to heavy smoking is a 25 to 30% decline in VO2 max. However, when we use more sophisticated statistics and we account for the effects of age, gender, percent fat, and activity in all of those smoking groups, then we find a minimal fall in VO2 max for the light and moderate smoking groups. It's less than a milliliter per kg per year. And then it falls more dramatically. It takes a lot of smoking. It's about 2.5 milliliters per kg for the heavy smoking group, that's greater than 20 pack years, as compared to the never smoked group. There is an effect, but it isn't near as much as we thought it would be until it gets to be very serious. This just shows the two models that we use for estimate VO2 max. The one on the left is without smoking and has a very high correlation. The problem is that if we were to estimate the VO2 max of a heavy smoker, we'd overestimate his VO2 max by about 2.56 milliliters. If you look at the column on the right, that is when you include smoking, you see heavy smoking, you get a drop in VO2 max of about 2.556 milliliters per kg per minute. So if we're going to estimate the VO2 max of a smoker, we need to include his smoking history into the model. So we can say, my conclusion is that you have to account for the effects of all the other variables that are associated with VO2 max: age, gender, activity, and body mass index. And when we do that, then we see a minimal drop in aerobic power until the habit is really serious. That's 20 pack years. And if we want to estimate VO2 max, we need to be sure to include smoking habit for smokers, especially the heavy smokers, or we're going to overestimate the VO2 max. Now, the so what, and what does this mean, and why is this important for smoking and fitness and health and so forth? And, I want to say that most of the explanation for differences in VO2 max is explained by differences in activity and in body fat. Those are the two most important controllable variables, even more important than smoking. However, the fitness effect of smoking tends to be slow acting and subtle. That's why these young athletes, young soldiers, and so forth feel like they can get away with smoking. That's why I felt like I could get away with smoking, because it didn't seem to hurt me. Well, heck, I was 21 years old. I was a young guy. I mean, how much smoking could I have done by that time? So it tends to lull active, even heavy smokers into thinking that habit doesn't really slow them down until the habit becomes very serious. Then not only does fitness plummet, but the habit kills you. So it takes a great amount of smoking and a long time for those effects of smoking to become apparent. But once they become apparent, it can be too late. It can be deadly. Now that concludes my presentation, I think. Yeah, that's all I've got. And I'll open it up if anybody has questions.
Dr. Weir, this is May at Kennedy. I have a question. A lot of our centers are involved in smoking cessation programs. Do I have your permission to share your slides? Particularly, a couple of the slides are very significant to the teachings that they do. Can I share these with them?
Sure. When I speak to the smoking cessation groups, I always tell them some research we did years ago where we found that the lead component in exercise adherence, people who stay with exercise adherence programs, is smoking. Well, we found that smokers, first of all, don't get in exercise programs to start with. And those who do are the first ones to drop out. That's what we learned in our studies, a lead factor in early dropout. But of the smokers who stayed in an exercise program for a long term, that was at least 2 years, 100% of them quit smoking. So smoking was not a factor after that because they all quit. They just didn't have any friends in the locker room, and it just didn't match the lifestyle, and made no sense to continue exercising and also continue smoking. I know I showed some athletes who smoke, but if you track them over the years, either they quit smoking or it's devastating. For example, we showed the picture of Pee Wee Reese. He was my hero when I was a young kid, played for the Dodgers in the 50s. He eventually died of lung cancer. So it'll catch up with you if you don't stop.
Michael Jordan.
We only have 8 more minutes left of the VITs. We have to close at noon. 4 more minutes. We have to close a little before noon. So if you have any questions, please ask them now or email Dr. Weir. Go ahead.
This is the National Records Management?
They need.
Someone
If
just
there's
has
a
their
question
mic
out
open.
there, we're having a hard time understanding it, so please try again.
I don't know what we were doing on our end. We were trying to squeeze in. Yeah.
I believe, May, this is Kathy up at headquarters. Hi, I can see the whole team down there. Stephen, nice to see you again. Haven't seen you in ages. I have a guest, a summer intern with us, and Larry, I know that your talk was very much appreciated. In fact, your comments to me was that you were very well informed and very up to date. The intern sitting next to me here, her name is Karina Dillon. I will have her for some of the summer on a limited time. And Karina is intending to graduate next year, and she's at Virginia Tech in Blacksburg, Virginia. And Larry, her degree is in human nutrition and exercise with a minor in psychology. I would say that you and she have a lot of things in common in terms of the psychology of why people exercise or don't exercise. And so I got her in before her internship actually starts with us, just so that she could hear the presentation and hear the HPW committee and what they do. And I will share with this group too that I'm working with Lucy Polk, who's head of the work-life programs at the Office of Personnel Management, and one of the things she has said to me privately and also in public forums that NASA, as an agency who does not have health as a part of its mission, is probably the best example in the federal government of what they do to encourage fitness and health promotion and disease prevention, which is really a compliment to us and all the people out there like yourself who are doing that. Thank you, May.
Thank you, Kathy, and welcome, Corinna. I'm really sorry, but we have to close our VITs right now. Please forward all your questions to Dr. Weir directly or to me if you like, and I will be sending the minutes within the next week. Thank you, everyone, for joining us, and have a very nice rest of the day. Bye. Thanks, Kathy.
You can go on and request a copy of all the slides. Not sure who May is. I didn't see anything from May.